Hey, hello, and welcome to another episode of Front of the Class Real Stories from Real Educators. Our real educator today is Hakeem Young. And Hakeem, when you are introducing yourself, maybe to other educators, how do you like to introduce yourself? What do you talk about? Do you talk about where you teach, how long you've been doing it, et cetera? Or where do you like to take that conversation when you introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. Hakeem Young. I start off saying, I'm a middle school math teacher. That kind of gets the eyes opened up because middle school is one of those crazy times for students. So I love it because they kind of look at me weird and differently. I've been doing this. This is year 8 in the education field. Um, I started in Kansas, and then took a couple years off to be in the military. And then now I got the bug to come back into education. And I've been at Spanaway Middle School for the past 8 years and Tacoma/Spanaway, Washington. And I teach now. I'm teaching 6th and 7th, but now I've taught all 3 grade levels at some point.
Perfect. And how did you get into this field in the first place? Is this something you always wanted to do? Did you back into this? Was this a second career? Like, how did you end up becoming an educator?
Becoming an educator was not my ideal um, job growing up. I never even thought about it. As a kid, I loved sports. So I was like, I'm going to be a professional athlete. That's what I'm going to do. And then when I got to college, I started looking around, realizing I'm not at a Division I school. So being at an NAIA school is going to be really tough to try to go pro. And that come to realization that I may need to look somewhere else. And I've always loved coaching. So I was like, I need to do a job that's going to allow me to still have the freedom to coach and do whatever I want. It came down to a professor. She's the reason why I got into it because I was a smart ass in her class one day because I was mad that I was taking a lower level math class because of not doing well in the ACT. And so she's like, you know what, since you know everything, you can just start by teaching our class every day and going over the homework. And so that went on for a whole semester. When I got done towards the end of that semester, she's like, honestly, I think you should go into education because you have patience, and you're willing to get out in front of the class and you can perform because sometimes being a teacher is a performance. And so that was kind of what started me down the path of dipping my toes into education. And then as I got further into my college career, I found that, middle level math, that middle school math time was a time where I really struggled. And there wasn't very many male teachers in the math department. So trying to make another connection to, the young males out there, here's a math teacher that's a male that I could see at the middle school level that could possibly, change someone's lives at the middle school and set them up for success in high school and further on. So that's how
Well,
I fell into this role.
and I suppose thank you to that professor who called you out, because sometimes we need to be called out when it's coming from a good place by somebody. And it seems like she was coming from a good place of like, oh, you think you're so smart? Why don't you teach this lesson? Probably knowing that you seemed like one to like a challenge, rise to a challenge. That's your MO, it seems like. So I'll just go shout out to thank you to that person for kind of putting you on a path that you never thought you were going to go to. That seems like it's a heck of a good fit for you.
Yeah, that's the shout out goes to, Dr. Kelly Flaherty. That's who it was. I call her my Baker mom, one of my Baker moms. She held me accountable all the time. So
Well, thank you, Dr. Kelly Flaherty. And you mentioned before deciding to get into teaching with this kind of push from her, you wanted to be a coach. And I would love to do a little bit of a deep dive here because you are coaching right now. So can you also paint a picture of like what are all the things that you're coaching right now?
So currently I am coaching at Spanaway Lake High School. I'm an assistant football coach. I coach D line, so varsity, JV, and C team. As soon as that season gets done, there is no off season for me because I'm also the head girls wrestling coach um, at Spanaway Lake as well. And then I get about a month off from wrestling, and then I go into Spanaway Middle's football season where I'm the head coach as well.
A lot, and there's one of those that's more that's I'm just going to say more interesting, just because I have not heard of the math teacher who wants to be a role model to young males, who is the girls wrestling coach. So we're going to dig into that one a little bit, especially exploring kind of a little bit of a theme for you that is along the lines of, how do you get students, athletes, parents to kind of buy in to your story, your recruitment pitch, your approach, how you're going about things? Because you're approaching this not from, let's go win the state title, but a very different perspective. So can you share a little bit of, uh, if someone is going to join your girls wrestling program, what are the expectations you set? What is the recruiting pitch that you sell to them? Why should they join your team?
So I got into girls wrestling. It kind of fell into my lap because I did 1 year as an assistant for the boys team. The girls head coach was retiring at that time, and their program was kind of on the downfall. And the boys head coach, Chris Chambers, he was like, dude, you just have that charisma that could possibly be the spark to bring it back. And I was like super hesitant because I'm a first year teacher getting ready to take on, my first year teaching. I'm coaching high school football now to add on a head position. And I was like, you sure I can do that? And he's like, yeah, don't worry. I'll teach you everything about the paperwork. You just go be you. And so how it started is because I'm at middle school, I start talking to my middle school girls, especially ones that seem to get into fights a lot and are just more aggressive. That's where I start first, just because now that gives them a safe outlet. If I can get them, hey, just make it through the day till you get to practice, and now we can let out all that anger and aggression on the mat in a safe manner, because that's how I grew up. I had some trauma going through my lives, and football and wrestling was there. I didn't know how much I loved wrestling until I started coaching girls, because they listen way better than the boys. I hate to say that. At the end of the day, they listen better. But how I approach it is, I don't care what level you are. I don't care. I'll take a first year wrestler. We've put at least 8 or 9 into the state tournament.
Mm.
I average at least one new brand wrestler at the state tournament every year, and I'm at 8 years. It's all about, are you willing to put in the work when it comes to wrestling? Because it is a sport that you only get out what you put in. It's you versus everyone. And so it's one of those sports where I have to build their own self-confidence, and which in today's age, that's really hard to do. Because there's a lot of negative out there with the social media and bullying and things like that. But with wrestling, it gives them a place. And honestly, I tell them, we will become your next family. That's how I'm going to treat you. I'm going to treat you like you're one of my kids. I'm going to push you like you're one of my kids. And the expectations are high. I care about the student athlete. I do not care if they ever win a match in their high school career, as long as they cross that graduation stage. With our program, it took till last November for us to be able to say this. We are 100% graduation rate for any girl in high school that starts with us. If you even come your junior year, we find a way to make sure you graduate. And so the recruitment starts early. And what's nice is, if I can get older sisters, I try to get the younger sibling, because they're stuck coming to it. So it's like, come on, your sister gave me a year, you give me a year. And so I make it open and inviting, and so like, we do have a contract, it's got high standards. I expect you to be at practice every day. If not, you have to communicate. It's like a job. Like, I want you to communicate, because here in Washington, it's a no cause state. You can get fired for no reason, right? They ain't got to tell you. And think about it. Growing up, we're always taught to be on time for work. 5 minutes is late, 15 minutes is early, kind of mentality of being in the military. I hold their grades very high. For WIAA, it says I can allow a wrestler to have an F to wrestle. I try to go a 0 F policy, which is hard because there are some tough classes and things like that. But if you have an F, we're creating an action plan. I've brought in 3 other female coaches. So one of them being my wife, Willow War Littner Young, Michaela Reach, And then I brought in Adila Edge last year on to my squad, who is my academic and mental health coach. So legit, her job is to check all my girls' grades, right? Every Monday we do mental toughness, because we got to be mentally tough, and especially for girls, it can get ugly real quickly. I found out this year. I had a girl who was struggling, and at first we didn't realize it, but as the season went on, we noticed some changes with her, and then luckily because of her, Coach Edge and some of the training she went to, she was like, "Hey, we got to get the counselors involved and possibly save this girl's life." That's one of those things that they're my kids at the end of the day. Yes, they're someone else's that I borrow for 4 months and for 4 years, but I tell them, you're my kid for life, and I don't care. I'm going to do what's best for you. And yes, you may hate me. She hated me for about a month. And then it was about July, after she crossed the stage and everything, because she was a senior, and she's like, I appreciate it. So do I see the results of my labor early? No, I don't. Like, I get girls that I talk to in 6th grade. I have to wait 3 years for them to come to the high school, and then they finally join wrestling, or they wait till they're sophomores because they're like, oh, I don't want to try out this year. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to dig in a little bit here. I'll ask a couple questions. I'm also going to frame some of this of like, hey, everyone listening, if you're thinking about how does recruiting people for the girls wrestling team apply to me, like, I'm going to share a lot of things of how this could apply to starting any club, any team, whatever it may be. So one of the things that you're doing is, recruiting people early, right? You're in middle school, you're teaching kids, you're talking about, hey, when you're in high school, I'd love to have you on the wrestling team. Here's the type of things that you're going to do. So you're recruiting early. You're also recruiting strategically. You're not just necessarily everybody, but maybe some select people who have traits that wrestling might be good for. Like you shared earlier, some people a little bit more aggressive. It just seems like maybe in their blood, in their genes, like wrestling would be a good outlet for them. So you're recruiting early and strategically. You're also sharing that you have their long-term best interest in mind. You don't care if they win a match. They probably will, but you don't care if they do or they don't. You're there to be part of a family and to help maintain 100% graduation rates for everyone who goes through your program. So you're talking about playing the long-term game for their long-term best interest, whether they ever win a match or not. Winning is irrelevant. And you're holding a high standard, right? You mentioned a contract that you have people sign. And I'd love to dig into that contract. But again, I'm just stepping back of any teachers out there. If you want to recruit people to a class, a new class that you're teaching, a new group, a new sport, whatever it is, like, you may not think that this applies. Like, all these things apply. Like, how are you looking out for the long-term interest of the student? How do you back that up? How are they going to be better off because of that? What's your macro goal? Like 100% graduation rates. I don't care if you win a match. That's not what we're here for. If you win, cool. Recruiting early and recruiting strategically. These are all very, very smart ways of going about approaching this that I just want to highlight. They're going to apply to anything. Now, with all that being said, I would love to dig into that contract. Can you share a little bit about that upfront contract? Where'd that come from? What are people signing up for when they join your team? What are the expectations? And how do you how do you enforce those? Because sometimes it can be really easy, like you said earlier. I try to hold this policy, but sometimes it's going to be hard. So when maybe do you veer off and make an exception? So I'd love to go ahead and attack that however you'd like to, but where does this contract come from? What's on it?
So
how do you enforce it? And how do you make exceptions and why?
So the contract actually came from the boys coach, because with having almost 80 kids out, how can I hold a standard and hold these kids to something? And it's also one of those things that it's a piece of paper that backs up your decision making, to where you already have something in place that both the athlete and their parent have read and have signed. So when those hard conversations have to come about, you can bring out that piece of paper at line A.C. You signed stating you understand this. So I adopted it to the girls. First one is, you'll be on time, you'll be present. And if not, you have to at least inform us that you're not going to be here. And it's not, no, you're telling me at 3:30 I practice started. It's a prior notice, like a job. That's one of them. Hygiene, that because with wrestling, you have to be very hygienic because the spread of skin diseases and things happen and illness. So they got to shower, after every practice, after every tournament. Then there is attendance of school. You have to be in school the day before the competition, right? Attend practice. You have to be in every single class day of competition, or you will not compete, because that's part of the Washington Interscholastic guidelines as well. So I stole that from them. Academics, we will maintain, and I don't say a certain GPA because every kid is going to be different. Not every kid can give me all A's or all B's. You're going to get those C's. But the goal is we don't fail classes, right? In life, we don't fail. So we don't give up. We keep trying. So the goal is, yeah, you can have an F and still wrestle, but we're creating an action plan of how we can get that F up to where it's a C. Then we have our winter attendance, because we're over winter break. So that means we still got to compete. We're still competing. We may have 1 or 2 tournaments. So you still got to be there at practice, right? And if you're not going to be there, once again, like our attendance policy, you got to let us know beforehand. It's not no, I hate the excuse kids. Oh, well, this just came up. Come on now. You've known that you're going on vacation for this long. Like, it's not this just, oh, we randomly went on a family vacation nowadays with how expensive everything is. From there, it's just the last one is we do have a parent one where they don't get to choose who the coach is. That's going to be in their kid's corner, because at tournaments, it's a madhouse. I could be in one gym. Yes, you prefer me to coach your daughter, but it's not always going to happen. And so, because we've had some parents in the past that get upset, well, I don't like how this coach coaches. And I'm like, I don't care. They're going to have a coach in the corner. That's all that matters at this point in time. And this forces my coaches as well to get to know every wrestler and figure out what they're good at, what they're bad at. Because sometimes when I'm not coaching them, I get to see things that I didn't notice, because now I'm not in that coach mode. I get to see it from an outside perspective. And the last one is the 24-hour rule. If a parent is upset about a decision that I've made while the wrestler isn't wrestling, while they're not doing this or that, and they're heated or upset, they can invoke the 24-hour rule, which that means, hey, I want a meeting within 24 hours. What that allows me to do is, one, get an admin there, because I want a third party to witness it and have my admin support. 2, this allows us to have both calm down, because I've seen and been a part of where, at the end of a game, here comes a parent that's angry about playing time or such and such, and it doesn't go well.
Yeah.
And then you say some things in that conversation that should not be said, and it could do some real damage to, the athlete's mental state, also the relationship that we're trying to build. Because like I tell my parents, we're a triangle. Your kid is at the top of the triangle. So me and you got to be a strong, firm base. And if something's off at the base, that kid's not going to perform like they're supposed to. And so that's just kind of how our contract goes. And it's nice to have, because when kids do mess up, okay, here it is. Line A, you signed the contract, because I also don't let them compete until I get that contract.
And
So
real quick, can you share also a little bit of, is there anything in that contract that you are signing up for that they might be able to go and say, hey, coach, line 2B, like you said you were going to do this, and you maybe didn't do this yesterday. I'm just curious to hear, like, is it all sides have this? Like, what are you signing up for?
All sides. Yeah, there's all sides. For me, it's the same thing. I have to communicate, hey, I'm not going to be here. I'm a grown man. Why do I have to tell my own team I'm not going to be here? But I do. Guys, I'm not going to be here at practice tomorrow. Or, I have to communicate with them as quickly as possible if anything does change. I maintain, good hygiene, because I'm a coach. I have to do the same things so they can hold me to the same standards. Now they could hold me to the academic one, because I am back into doing my master's right now. But I tell them, y'all will never outwork me, and I keep my grades up. So don't come for me in my grades. So, and then it's, with parents, they can ask questions and things like that. That's why I have it. I kind of have an open door policy, with them. If you got questions, let's go. We can talk. And I think that's the other thing that helps parents buy in, is because I allow them, come watch practice, come watch your girls, and you'll see why I'm mad and I'm yelling if I kicked your kid out of practice because they're not going hard like they said they would in the contract, that's why. And so that also helps.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And can you also share, again, you shared 100% graduation rates. Can you also share a little bit of when you took over the program? It sounded like, again, there's a old coach, like kind of ramping down. Maybe the program was kind of on shaky ground. Can you share a little bit, like how many wrestlers did you have when you took over, and how many do you have today? Just as another metric for people listening of, man, I want to turn this team around or turn this class around. Like, I want to go, like, what are the, can you share a little bit more about this quote unquote success metrics, including just what's your participation when you started and what is it now?
Yeah. So when we started, Coach Tony Curtis, who was the head coach a long time because his daughter was into wrestling, he founded the team. At the time when he took over back in like 2008, there was maybe 5 or 6. And at that time, the Spanaway Lake girls were known for high academics. They've even won an academic state title. They had one state champion, and that was back in 2015. Raquel Gray, who's come back and helped us coach too, just so that our girls get that aspect of, oh, this is what a state champion was like and how they train. When I took over in the 2018 season, he was down to 9 girls, and I was told only 4 were possibly coming back.
Eh.
So when I was told that, and when I took over, I was like, oh, I'm going to have to start doing some heck of recruiting so I could, and so I just started, any girl that I saw that I figured that was rough, tough, hey, you should come out for girls wrestling. You should try girls wrestling. And, and then no knock to the basketball team at the time, they weren't very dominant. So I would be like, yo, do you want to come join a team that could possibly win a league championship real quick compared to basketball? Because that's really tough over there. We need numbers. It sometimes is a numbers game in wrestling. So I would put that out. And then, I go from, okay, I had 4 signed up to now I have 16 my first year. And then, we do the same thing, but this time we ask the girls, hey, bring one person with you. Try to bring one person, they bring a friend. And then we went from 16 to 18, year 2. Year 3 is when we saw the boom. We went from 18 to 24. Then COVID hit. So our numbers went way down. So we were down to 7 during COVID. And I was like, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? And so first year that we came back from COVID where we had normal stuff, we were back up to 24.
Eh.
And then the next year after that, because, we've been league champions a couple times at this point. So now it's the popularity is growing up. Kids know my faces. Kids that I saw in middle school that I tried to get to come out are now starting to come to the high school. And they're like, we want to wrestle for you. And I'm like, yeah, cool. Right. And then, my team gets built around 1 or 2 girls who are really good, but they need all the pieces to be great. And so I'm like, I'll go find a girl who's super shy and, I'll try it for a year. Give me a year. If you don't like it at the end of the year, you don't like the way your body looks, how your body feels, your mentality has changed, I'll buy your shoes off of you. No problem. You never have to come wrestle again. Long as you give me that adult conversation. Hey, I don't know, no longer want to do this. Cool. How much were your shoes? All right. And then when I see them in the hallways, I say, hi, how you doing? How are your grades? Because grades are still important to me. How's your family doing? Because, you get to know these kids' families because you're with them for 4 months, spending a lot of times, weekends. So then we went to 32. And then we hit 32. 32 became 34. And then 2 years ago, we had 51 show up. We finished the season with 39. And so, and then, due to injuries, we had 34 athletes still participating with our injuries and our managers. And then currently, I checked our numbers right now, and I haven't even tried to go into the high school and try to recruit yet. We're sitting at 40 girls signed up.
Wow. So you've taken this program over that time frame from maybe you can count them on one hand to, maybe as high as 50, maybe as low as 40, somewhere in this range, all with a 100% graduation rate so far that you've maintained, all with, if someone's getting an F, they're putting out a plan, all with this hard upfront contract. It's not like you're recruiting people of just like, yeah, we're gonna have a party, we're just have a great time, everyone just come. Like there's high expectations, right? that
Yeah.
come along with this, including that contract. And one thing that you shared too that I'll highlight again for people who are like, how do I build my team? How do I build this new class I want to build? You gave people a very easy way to say yes and a very easy off ramp, right? Like, just try, if you don't like it, try it for one season, just one season. If you don't like it, no risk to you. We're still going to have a great relationship. I'll say hi to you in the hallways. I'll still ask you how you're doing. I'll buy your shoes off you. No hard feelings whatsoever. If you don't like it, I'm not going to force you to do something you don't like, but just give me a try. Just give me a try for 1 year. So you give people a very easy, no risk way to say yes with an easy on ramp that like they they still get to have a relationship with you. It's not going to be every day, like, because they're not going to see you
Yeah.
every day of wrestling. But like there's no ramifications. There's no like, some bad coach. If you're not on my team, then you mean nothing to me. Like, you're not doing that at all, right? You're making this very easy to say yes, and even very easy to leave if it's not a good fit. So I just can't stress enough. Like, I appreciate you sharing all that detail and the numbers that you've been able to
Yes.
create, and the macro point of, you didn't start with every year I have one girl go compete at state. You started with 100% graduation rates. That's the first thing I'm after. All the accolades, and you can maybe win state, or we can do all this cool stuff as a team. That comes after that. You're looking out for the long-term interest of the kids first. So thank you so much for sharing that story. Anybody listening, you can apply these principles to something beyond the wrestling team. You can apply this to a lot of different stuff. Now, we talked a lot about coaching. Let's talk about teaching. So in this, 8+ years, kind of in the classroom, teaching, et cetera, any proudest moments stand out to you? And maybe these are also involving some coaching that you've had, because you're coaching every single season, right? So it's a very big part of
Yeah.
your life. Any proudest moments after 8 years of coaching and teaching that rise to the top for you, that still maybe they may even make you tear up because it's such a powerful moment that maybe you or your team or your student had? Anything rise to the top for you?
Honestly, there's a lot. Um, Especially with, the kids that I've seen, where I've seen and know their background, and I know they got the deck stacked against them.
Yeah.
And, that they're still finding ways to get themselves to schools every day, find ways to get themselves to athletics. And, they're putting in their studies. It's tough because it's like every year, I got those onesie twosie kids on the team that for sure I don't know how you did it. Like, the deck was stacked against you. And it's just hard because now that I'm getting older, I figured it out. Like my dad, I say I'm getting softer. So my emotions, graduation day is when the girls really get to see me, and the boys from football get to see me just relax around them, because I've been this hard, committed, constant person that's on their case about their grades. You got to take care of this. You got to do this. And like I tell them, my job is finally done when you cross that stage. And it's weird to think I've been with a kid 6, 7, 8 years, and now I don't get to see them every day. I don't get to check on them. Did I do everything I was supposed to do as a coach, as a teacher, as a mentor, to set them up for success when I'm not around? So and that's why I tell these kids, if you, I don't lie to them. If you ain't got a dad, I'll be your next dad. If you need this in your life, you need this, whatever you need for me to play in that role, I will be that role. So it's graduation day is when the girls tend to see me cry, like, because I'm just so happy and excited that you've made it. I've had guys, some of my football players, we're down to the wire. We're staying up late doing their homework. We got to get this homework done, dude. You can't, let's go. We got to push. And, my athletes, my boys, it's tough. Senior nights are tough because I now know you're done, and I won't get to see you every day and make sure you're okay. And so it's, like I said, with the 100% graduation rate thing, I've seen a class is anywhere from 7 to 11 girls, almost up to 33 boys. I'm seeing 44 kids that I know personally, just and been through the grind with for 6, 7, possibly 8 years, or if I've known them longer because they were mini me's, coming to their older brothers and sisters' practices. And I've watched them grow up in the youth programs. And it's just, that's my proudest moment. Yeah, when we win, and place at state, I've had girls who are broken, battered, bruised, dislocated shoulders. And it's just to ask for, come on, one more time, get up one more time. I need you to get up one more time, and watch them get up and still grit those teeth and bear down, and let's go one more time. Because I'm like, that's what's going to happen in life. Life will beat you down, and you just got to find a way to get up. And it's just watching them get up, meet the challenge, and overcoming it. It's, yeah, right now I'm starting to just thinking about some of my former athletes. I've been on a wild ride for these past 8 years, and to think I still got many more to go as long as they have me.
Well, I certainly hope they will after the stories that we're hearing today. And if I may, middle school and high school, you're spanning both in the classroom and in coaching. And in some ways, that can be some of the hardest. This can be the best. There always be some of the hardest times in people's lives. And where I go with this is, you are, based on the contract and how you're speaking of, like, you get beat down, we get right back up. Like, you're setting a high expectation. And sometimes kids maybe haven't had a high expectation before, and that feels too much. It feels like you're pushing too hard, coach. How do you think about that? How do you balance that, especially when you know what it takes to go play collegiately, like not quite D1, right? Not
Yep.
not quite reaching the goals. And trust me, I want to be a pro baseball player. I wasn't good enough either. But like, how do you kind of think about that? Do you have kids who push back, you're being too tough, parents are being too tough, and then they come back and maybe thank you 4 years later when they graduate? How, like, I guess, and in the short term, do you question yourself, like, am I being too hard? Like, oh,
Yeah.
am I not being hard enough? How do you think about that for yourself? Because in that time in life, sometimes you might be pushing kids harder than they've ever been pushed before. And some might like that. Some might really need that. They need that. And some might push back. Some might need it, but they don't know they need it yet. And so they're kind of like, they're on the fence. How do you think about that kind of, am I pushing too hard? Am I not pushing hard enough? That one kid
Yeah.
quit. Should I have been more lenient? Like, how do you hold the standard, I guess, especially at times when some kids maybe are questioning why you push so hard? And how do you still get
Yeah.
people to buy in when you push so hard? How are you doing this?
So when it comes to the academics, I tell them, like, even my kids nowadays, I'll let them see my transcript. Like, I am not perfect. That's the first thing I tell them. I'm not perfect. I made mistakes. In 7th grade, I had a teacher that I went from, because I knew the math and it was easy, I was cool, breeze. Then it became hard. I became a turd in her class, and she never gave up on me, even when I was a turd. Um, she would bring me in, for extra tutoring and things like that, which, bless her heart, I cannot remember her name, but I know she's probably passed on and rolling in her grave laughing at me, because now I'm in her situation where I do it all the time. And so with the academic side, I tell them I understand, but we gotta push. Even if it's just a C, we're going to get you to a C, and then, okay, once we got to see, how can we get to a B? It's steps. I'm not telling them to do it in one giant leap, because I know they'll get overburdened. Their minds they do not have the prefrontal cortex to handle all that. And then I'll completely lose them. So we truly try to break it down into small chunks for them. So let's do this, and then let's do this. What's most important to get done first? So that they kind of check that, get a checklist going, boom, I've gotten this done, because then they can see it happening in front of their own eyes, that they're completing these things, which then in turn will raise their grade. That's for academics, right? For athletics, what tends to happen is I start them all off where this is where I want you to be. Now, what is your goal? What do you want from me? How do you want me to coach you, right? Do you want me to you're just here to be a part of the team, have fun, learn wrestling, be a part of something? Or, okay, are we trying to win tournaments? Are you trying to win tournaments? Okay, are you trying to win, multiple tournaments? Are we
And
now
will you
trying to
coach people
go to
differently
state?
based on their answers to those
Oh,
questions? Yep.
yes. Yes, I have to. I have to, because not every person's the same. I've had a girl who was my first 3-time placer. Her mental state, if I got too hard, some days it would be, I would send her into a meltdown. She'd cry. She'd just want to quit. And so I've had to learn to ask them, or also I give them that, coach, I am not here today fully
Yeah.
mentally. Do not, do not push me. Right. So now I at least know where, like, one of my athletes, she's like, I want to be a state champion. Cool. Now I'm about to be nitpicky about everything you do. And you're not going to like me. I'm going to, every little piece of your technique, I'm going to try to tear apart and find a way and find a hole. Where this one, you know what? You let me know today's not that day. Cool. You know what? You may look a little sloppy. Hey, you made it through practice. I'm glad you made it through practice, because that could have been the day I sent her away. So I've learned that, because, and I've had it to where me and an athlete, we've gotten to full on arguments. My homegirl, Mahogany Lewis, we used to get, she's just like me, and we would just butt heads. We'd have to argue it out and get all our emotions out, right? And then some days she'd be like, you know what, coach, let's go. I'm going to full go at you, and you're just going to take it. And I'm just like, cool. So I'm about to just be a punching bag and get beat up because she's had a bad day. And that's where the buy-in comes into. Then I start raising the standard. And what ends up happening is I set a standard 1 year for the team. The girls will meet it. And then if I'm not at that standard starting the next year, they're like, oh, coach, you're getting soft. What's going on? Like, because it was my 2 years ago, I had a high class, right? I had 4 or 5 placers. And so I started the season off intense their first year because I was trying to get them all in shape. And then the next year we had like 20 new girls. And I'm like, not trying to do all the same things that I did when, you ain't got as many. So we got to get you in shape now and ready to go. And they're like, oh, coach, you're getting soft. And I was like, what do you mean? They're like, well, you're not yelling like you used to. You're not making us run like we used to. And they were like, we're not winning like we used to as much. So we need old coach back. So whatever you need to do, coach, you need to figure that out and bring him back.
And by the way, on this one, I got to interject, because that's such that I don't know. I'm reacting to this of like, what a cool experience when you set a high standard that is going to be hard, and you have a team that meets it. And then they're so bought in that they can feel maybe when your standard is maybe it went down from a 9 to an 8.2, and they can feel it and they want it back. Like, they tell you, like, this doesn't feel like Coach Hakeem Young's team. We want it back. Like, what a validating experience for you of like, okay. Like, and like, I mean, how do you feel in that moment? They're calling you out saying like, you hold a high standard and you're slipping a little bit, bring it back. How do you feel?
You know what? It reminds me I'm human. That's what it really does. That, I can't, and it happens. And that's the whole point of this experience going through us with us. We want you to have that open conversation with us, those dialogues, because that's how it's got to be. We're going to have those tougher conversations in life where it's, hey man, you're not giving your all. What's going on? Because then we can at least, okay, now we can see why you're not giving us that. And then, when it happens, okay, let me tell you the truth. This is why. They're not excuses. It's just, this is what's going on, because we really don't accept excuses, because you do or you don't. It's you either get it done or you don't get it done. And with wrestling, it's win or lose. Sorry. And so it's okay. And then it's like, okay, this is what they want. I got to snap back into it. Because there's times, I got 40 girls on. I'm trying to keep 40 girls out, when I didn't care if I had 40. All I needed was 16 or 8 dogs to go into this fight that are willing to go fight tooth and nail for each other, not just me.
Yeah.
And we can win this thing. And so, sometimes that's where I go, I don't care about your feelings today. We grinded, and it's going to suck, and you're going to suck it up, buttercup. And if you decide you want to tap out, there's 12 doors you can walk out of, and we'll see you tomorrow. Come back, if you don't want to ever come back, cool, but it's tough. And I forewarn the girls at the beginning of the season. I say it jokingly. I'm an a-hole. I'm an a-hole to you. I'm your biggest fan, your worst critic, your biggest hater. I will hate on you so much throughout the whole practice. I am trying to get you riled up and lose your composure. Because in our sport, you have to maintain composure for the whole match or it could cost you. And so, that's one of those things I let parents know. I am during our parent meeting that we take an hour of breaking down the season and the contract and everything. I'm your daughter's worst hater, biggest critic, but also one of their biggest supporters. And you will always hear me. At the end of every tournament, I don't have a voice because I yell. I tell them, like how my high school coach told me, you will hear me through your headgear. You will know when I'm talking to you. You'll be able to hear me in the crowd. And so that it just goes through. And you're able to still do what we need you to do. And so it's one of those feelings. It's awesome to get called out, but at the same time, it freaking sucks because I'm like, gosh, dang it. I just, I want it to be an 80% today and I don't got the energy for it. And they're like, nah, you got to bring that back up. And
Yeah.
because I'm a hype man. You can see how I am. Like, I like the girls to have the best of everything. I like everyone to know we're here. You're going to go through us if you want something and embrace that challenge. So it sucks when
Well,
they
one
call
thing
me
I
out.
do want to call out, right, for to have high expectations and they push people to a place that they didn't think that they could go. I think you got to show them that you care about them as a person. Like it's not about you. It's not about your ego. It's not about win state titles. Like it's about unleashing human potential. It's about elevating the human spirit. It's about tapping into something that I see in you that maybe you don't even see in yourself. And that comes through in spades, which is the way you talk about the team and 100% graduation rates. And like your focus is on building long-term people so that they can be prepared for life. And when you push people, when you push them hard, there can be pushback if they don't think you're coming from a genuinely good place in their long-term best interest. And it sounds like you've laid that foundation from when you had them in middle school to then join the team of like, you've laid that foundation that there's a trust. They believe that you're pushing them to reach their best potential and their long-term best interest. So I don't want to lose sight of that. Like that's coming through in spades with the way you talk about this. And without that, pushing people is a lot harder because they're wondering like, are you doing this for me or are you doing this for yourself? And it's pretty obvious that you're doing this for them, not for yourself. So
Yeah, I definitely get that.
So thank you for sharing your approach on this. This is an incredible story. Again, I'll recap, right? Girls wrestling team from, you can count on one hand how many people are out there, to you're at its high 50, sometimes 40 now after doing this for 8 years with 100% graduation rates. I mean, it's an incredible story with a contract upfront that you sign, they sign, their parents sign, right? With high expectations. And the girls even call you out if you're slipping one day and they don't think your expectations are high enough. It's just an incredible story that thank you so much for sharing. And now we'll dig into a couple more just quick hitter questions as we wrap up. You did mention getting your master's, and you're going through that process right now. Why right now to choose getting your master's? Why is the timing right? And what are you hoping that unlocks for you after you finish
Timing's not right. I just got tired of my friends and my wife and my coworkers getting on to me that I need to go back and get my master's. And I would give them every excuse why not to. And they're like, you wouldn't do that for your wrestlers. You wouldn't allow them to give you an excuse. You wouldn't let your students give you an excuse. So stop giving excuses and just do the paperwork and get in. With my master's, that'll allow me to go, it gets me into physical education. So if I decide to leave the math realm, I can now jump into physical education, which now I can see these kids and the athlete portion as well. So now helping with, nutrition and health and that portion of the game. I've also been asked to come up to the high school because of just how I am with the kids and things like that. And by having my master's in PE, that'll allow me to do that.
Yeah, perfect. And for a brand new teacher out there, maybe this is their first year, maybe they're 3 weeks on the job right now because we're recording this in September and this new school year kind of just started. What's the number one piece of advice that you might give to a brand new teacher who's traversing through their very first year as a full-time educator?
First things first, do not be afraid to ask for help. Don't let yourself get drowned with all the things that are going on with the start of the school year. Because trust me, I get drowned every year. Find a veteran teacher to talk to and confide in. I have one who's still here when I joined, Denise Angerman. I called her mom. Anytime I was struggling with something, I was like, Mom, I need help. Mom, can you help me with this? You know, and she was always willing to help me. And then I also had, like I said, a great team that was super supportive of my first year. So go into those team meetings with an open mind, trying to find a mentor and someone that can help you out through these times. Because trust me, it gets hard
Yeah.
as a first year teacher because you don't know everything.
And what to you is the number one best thing about this profession? What's kept you in it for so long when you never thought you were going to be here?
It's honestly, as much as they get on my nerves, it's the kids and watching them just grow and finally make those connections that in life, that, you know, how their education is going to help them in life. And when they make those aha moments, and then when you get to see them as middle schoolers to now you're graduating, and then now you're going to college, and now you're having kids, and they're like, Coach, look what I've done. They keep coming back to you and showing you, you know, they want you to be proud of them still, of all the hard work that they've put in. And that's every year I'm like, man, I'm quitting. And then I get a student that comes back and says, Mr. Young, I really want to be in your class, or I remember this time in your class, or man, I wish I would have listened to you. And then it just fills the cup back up. And I'm like, you know what? Let's do it another year.
What's one thing you wish the greater public at large knew about the education and coaching professions that you feel like maybe they just don't quite understand? So if you were to put somebody else, like walk a year in my shoes, here's the number one thing I wish you'd learn about this profession that maybe you don't appreciate if you're not in it.
Um, I care about your kids more than I do my own kids
Mm.
at times. I have to put your kids' needs and wants and things that they need in the classroom or athletics before my own family sometimes. I legit do care about your kid. Like, I spend, 180 days, half of a year with your kid, get to know them. Um, and sometimes you don't get to see your kids in ways I do that, and it's it's an eye opener when you get to see. I've seen some kids when they're around their parents, completely different kids. And then when they get to school, they open up, they're themselves, they're happy go lucky. And I do care about your kid at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And for folks listening, teachers, maybe prospective teachers out there, any new words of wisdom, anything that you wanted to share in this that we just didn't have a chance to get to, that you got to get it off your chest, or anything that you did say that's just so impactful that like we got to go circle it in the book and write in the notes and highlight it because it's something you want to repeat. So any new or repeated final words of wisdom?
Listen to your kids. Let them talk to you. And then also, tell them a little bit about yourself and make that connection, that to show them that you're human and you understand where they're coming from. Like, we can empathize with them because we've been in their shoes before, but we're not also dealing with some of the same issues that they have with that we had growing up. It's completely different. So,
Well, Hakeem Young, great real stories from a real educator. Thank you so much for sharing a little deep dive on this girls wrestling program. Listen to your kids, and as an educator, you might just care about these kids in class and in your school programs than dare I say, sometimes your own kids, because you see them more often. So thank you so much for sharing your story. Appreciate you. Keep doing great work.
thank you for having me.